The FDA to cut back on some of its food inspections, but that doesn't mean it's time to panic about what you're eating. Here to talk about it, Peter Pitts, a former associate commissioner for the FDA. Peter, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
All right, so we're day 21 of this partial government shutdown with no end in sight. At this juncture, what's happening within the FDA?
Well, the FDA is having to take the resources that it has and the staff that remains, the essential staff, and on a risk-based proposition, put its staff and its resources that get the biggest bang for the public health buck. And clearly one of those issues is food safety.
That's right. And one of the main issues that the FDA takes care of are high-risk inspections. And I'm going to read a tweet from Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He's a current commissioner for the FDA. It's on your screen. And he references to that 2013 shutdown when he says that those high-risk inspections were stopped. At what point do you think that this, if the shutdown continues, could happen in 2019?
Well, every day that the government shutdown goes on presents an opportunity for more things to go wrong relative to things that aren't getting done. You know, food inspections sound simple. They're not. It's not just food. It's things like milk, essential things that we all use, things that children use. And the longer that the government is shut down, the longer that the FDA has to really stretch its resources thinner and thinner and thinner, the more likely it is that something untoward is going to happen. So these policies actually have real public health impact.
Yeah, and actually in 2018, about 70 people were sent to the hospital from eating cereal. That's considered a low-risk food, so obviously there's risk in all food that you eat. But I read somewhere that it says if you're concerned about the FDA and the shutdown, eat like you're pregnant. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I've never been pregnant, but I think it's a good piece of advice. You want to be safe. You want to be sound. If something smells bad, you might eat it. Otherwise, don't do it now. If you're thinking about eating out, but you have a question, then don't do that. You know, better safe than sorry right now. It's unfortunate, but we've got to kind of take actions as though things that probably wouldn't happen could, and we should take precautions.
And I think a lot of people may get confused between the USDA and the FDA. The USDA is in charge of regulating things like raw meat, poultry, egg products. The FDA, other things, for example, lettuce, romaine lettuce. We saw that huge outbreak last year, E. coli sending 5 people dead, really, from the E. coli in this lettuce. Hundreds went to the hospital. If there were to be another outbreak of this sort, would the American public know about this, given the status of the shutdown?
Well, that's an interesting point. And one of the jobs of the FDA and USDA and government in general is to inform the public as to health hazards that are going on. And with the government shut down and communications people generally not being considered essential personnel, those communications are going to be scaled down. So it's important that people understand not only what to do, but what's happening. And if they don't know what's happening, they can't take appropriate actions, and that's dangerous.
And also in the purview of the FDA are drug trials. A lot of people are leaning on these drug trials, new drugs, clinical trials. What's the status of that, say now into 3 weeks of this shutdown, potentially 4 weeks, 5 weeks, if this goes longer? How does that affect drug trials?
Well, the FDA doesn't actually run the drug trials.
Right.
The sponsors do, the drug companies. What the FDA does is review the data that comes from those studies to make its decision on the relative safety and efficacy of new medicines. And those are proceeding at pace, although slowly, and some not at all. So again, it ultimately will result in products not being brought to market as soon as they might. And even more dangerously, they're going to have to scale down on what's called pharmacovigilance, post-market surveillance, tracking the safety of drugs that are on the market right now. So if something goes wrong, it's not just food, it's also drugs, and that can be very dangerous. We all remember the days of Vioxx or the Johnson & Johnson Tylenol scandals. You want people in government, in control, doing the right thing and sending out the proper communications to the public. Because when that doesn't happen, misinformation gets out there, that's dangerous. The proper due diligence isn't done, that's dangerous. And at the end of the day, the people that get hurt are patients, are kids, moms who want to buy milk, people that want to go out to buy food and aren't sure what to do. These things have real-world consequences. The FDA is doing the best that it can. I think we have to give the folks who are working there right now, who are not getting paid, who are working double and triple shifts, a tremendous amount of gratitude and respect.
Absolutely. Peter Pitts, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be right back.